Hello everybody. In this video I'm gonna talk about solving the quadratic equation by quadratic equation formula. Solving the quadratic equation, we have different methods. One method is solving by factoring, the other one is solving by completing the square. The third method of solving is using the quadratic formula, and the fourth one is solved by graphing. In this video I'm going to talk about solve the quadratic equation by using quadratic equation formula. If you remember, the quadratic equation in a standard format is ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0, and the restriction is a shouldn't be equal to 0, because if a is 0 then it's not going to be quadratic equation anymore. And what is the quadratic formula? It's going to be x is equal minus b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. This is the quadratic formula, which a, b, and c are the coefficient of these terms. Remember, when we want to use the quadratic formula, the equation should be in the standard format. So if it's not in the standard format, the first step we have to convert it to the standard format and then substitute the value of a, b, and c in the formula. For every quadratic equation, we can have two answers, one answers, or no answers. How the two answers comes? Look at this plus and minus. If we write it as x is equal minus b plus b squared minus 4ac over 2a, this is going to be one answer that we can call it x1, one of the answers. And what is the other answers? x2 is going to be minus b minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So this is the other answer. So we have two answers, x1 and x2. And the difference is one of them is plus radical b squared minus 4ac, and the other one is minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Now, as I told you, the quadratic equation can have two answers, one answers, and no answers. How we can figure out the number of the answers? Sometimes the question asks you how many answers has a specific equation. This radical, I'm writing it separately, radical b squared minus 4ac. Okay? This radical, the name of this radical is discriminant. Discriminant. Let me check the spelling. Yeah. So the name of this radical is discriminant. And if this b squared minus 4ac, if it's positive, if b squared minus 4ac, if it's greater than 0, then we can have two answers for this radical, one with the positive sign and the other with the negative sign. So we will have two answers for the quadratic equation. If this discriminant b squared minus 4ac be equal to 0, okay? If we substitute the a, b, and c, and this radical end up to 0, it means this part gonna be eliminated. Plus minus radical b squared minus 4ac is gonna be eliminated. Then we will have only what is the remaining part, x gonna be minus b over 2a. When this part is 0, then this quadratic formula is gonna be changed. X is equal minus b over 2a. If this part is 0, then this is gonna be the answers. As you see, we have only one answer. Okay, so if the discriminant be equal to 0, the number of answer is 1. Let me erase this part. So, in this case, we have two answers. In this case, we will have only one answer. And if under the radical, the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac be less than 0 or negative, as you remember, the negative number doesn't have a square root. It means we cannot, this part is not possible to calculate it. Then we don't have any answer for the quadratic equation, or there is no answer for the quadratic equation, or the answer is imaginary answer. That I will talk about in the separate video. So just if the question asking how many answers and a specific quadratic equation have, we don't need to solve it. Just look at the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac. If it's greater than 0, then we will have two answers. If it's equal to 0, we will have one answer. And if it's negative, then we will have no answer. Now, let's do some examples. Let me erase this part. Let's do some example. As an example, x squared minus 5x plus 6. X squared minus 5x plus 6 equal to 0. Now, first of all, be sure that the equation is in the standard format, and then identify a, b, and c. For this one, a is 1, b is negative 5, and c is 6. Okay, it's very useful to separately identify this a, b, and c, and then substitute in the equation. Don't do it. I'm not recommended to do it mentally, because the risk of mistakes is higher than this method. After identifying this one, now substitute in the formula. X gonna be minus b, and b is negative 5. So minus 5. B is negative 5. Plus or minus a square root of b squared, which is minus 5 to the power of 2. Minus 4. What is a? A is 1. And c is 6. Minus 4ac over 2, and again a is 1 times 1. As you see, in this step I just substitute a value inside the formula. I haven't done any calculation. I'm doing a step by step because it is going to be much more safer. Now, after substituting the value, now simplify it. So x gonna be negative times negative is positive. 5 plus minus negative 5 to the power of 2 is 25. Negative 5 times negative 5 is going to be positive 25. And minus 4 times 1 times 6 is 24. Minus 24 over 2 times 1 is going to be 2. Okay? Now, simplifying one more step. X going to be 5 plus minus a square root of 25 minus 24 is 1 over 2. Okay? And one more steps. X going to be a square root of 1 is going to be 1. 5 plus minus 1 over 2. Now, we have two answers. One of them, we can say x1 is equal 5 plus 1 is 6 divided by 2 is 3. And what is the other answer? x2 is going to be 5 minus 1 is 4, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So, This quadratic equation, x squared minus 5x plus 6 equal to 0, have two answers, 3 and 2. Again, if we want to check if we substitute 3 for this one or we substitute 2 for this one, is going to end up to 0. It's recommended if you have time when you are doing tests, if you have time, just substitute in the equation and just figure out that if it's work or not to be sure that your calculation is right. Now let's do one more example. Let's do another example. I'm going to erase this one. Let's do this answer. This example. 2x squared plus 7x is equal to 3. 2x squared plus 7x is equal to 3. Now, because this equation is not in the standard format, we have to convert it to the standard format. Be careful, always before starting solving using quadratic formula, we have to convert to the standard format. What is the standard format of this one? 2x squared plus 7x minus 3 equal to 0. Now it's changed to the standard format. Identify A, B, and C. A gonna be 2, B gonna be 7, and C is negative 3. Okay. Now substitute in the formula. X gonna be minus B. B is 7, so it's gonna be minus 7 plus minus B squared, 7 squared minus 4. A is 2 and C is negative 3 over 2, and A is 2. 2A. Okay. Now after substituting the value, now simplify this one. Again, one more step. X gonna be minus 7 plus minus 7 to the power of 2 is 49, and negative 4 times 2 is negative 8 times negative 3 is positive 24. Okay. Now we don't need to. And what is the denominator? 2 times 2 is 4. Now simplify one more step. X gonna be minus 7 plus minus 49 plus 24 is 73 over 4. Right? 49, well, 7. Minus 7 plus minus radical 73 over 4. 73, we cannot simplify the radical 73 anymore. So this is going to be our final answer, but how many answers do we have? One answer is going to be x1 is going to be equal to minus 7 plus radical 73 over 4, and the other answer x2 is going to be minus 7 minus radical 73 over 4. This is the other answer. And as you see, we don't need to find the value of radical 73 using the calculator. If the question asks find your answer and then round it to 2 digits, 3 digits after decimal, then we have to continue up to the end. But in this case, this is going to be our final answer. Okay, let's do one more example of this part. Then we are done. I squared plus 71 is equal to 0. I want to solve this one using the quadratic formula. Again, is in a standard format. We have to figure out what is A, B, and C. A is 1, B is 0 because we don't have B, and C is 71. Now, let's say the question asking find the number of answers of this quadratic equation. We don't need to find, the question is not asking solve it, it's just asking find the number of answers of this quadratic equation. For finding the number of answers, just we need to find if b squared minus 4ac, yeah, what is the value of this one, the discriminant? If it's positive, we will have 2 answers. If it's negative, we will have no answer. And if it's 0, then we will have 1 answer. So instead of b is 0, so 0 minus 4a is 1 and c is 71. Right? When we simplify this one, this part is 0 and 4 times 1 is 4 times 71, but the answer is negative, the sign is negative. Is negative 284, and because it's less than 0, then there is no answer. As you see, we don't need to solve the equation because the question asking find the number of answers for this equation. Let's do another example in this case. X squared, 3x squared plus x is equal to x plus 10. Let's do this one. What was the question that I told you? 3x squared is equal x plus 10. Okay. The question asking find the number of answers of this quadratic equation. The question doesn't ask solve it or find the answer. It's asking find the number of answers of this quadratic equation. So first of all, convert to the standard format. Is going to be 3x squared minus x minus 10 is equal 0. We converted to the standard format. Now identify A, B, and C. A gonna be 3, B is negative 1, and C is negative 10. Right? A is 3, B is negative 1, and C is negative 10. Now calculate A squared. I'm going to continue from here. Calculate B squared minus 4AC. Okay? Just substitute in this one, which can be equal to B is negative 1, so negative 1 to the power of 2 minus 4. A is 3 and C is negative 10. Then what's the answer? Negative 1 to the power of 2 is 1. And negative times negative is positive. 4 times 3 is 12 times 10 is 120, which can be 121 greater than 0. Then it has 2 answers because it's positive. Because the discriminant b squared minus 4ac is positive. If the video. Okay, fine for now. Bye everybody, to the next video.